He gave us Wells for Boys and Los Spookies, and now Julio Torres makes his debut as writer, director, and star of Problemista, which is now available via streaming.
I'm so glad we're talking about this because a bunch of you folks asked us to review it, and for whatever reason or not, we just couldn't get to it when it first came out theatrically. But yes, now it is streaming and must see on whatever television you own. We'd love to have you subscribe to us here at Breakfast All Day. You know, we are so close to 30,000 subscribers, and I would love to try to get there by the end of the summer if we can. So join us for all the good things in store. We got art house stuff. We got big blockbusters coming, and we're here for you, for all of us to come and hang out with us.
What is it with walnuts? Walnuts, walnuts, walnuts. It's like a cafe for squirrels.
Walnuts, they go very nicely with the salad.
Do I look like I need educating on fine cuisine?
Hard to believe this is Julio Torres' directorial debut because his voice is so specific and strange. I guess that's the comedy that he has honed for a while, but it is all here in this film. He stars as a young man named Alejandro, who is a recent immigrant from El Salvador. He has dreams of being a toy designer. So he goes to New York and tries to be a toy designer. He dreams of working at Hasbro with just like the slightest tweaks on the kinds of toys that we see all the time. The details are so cool, and the perspective he has on something that is so simple and wholesome, supposedly. He ends up needing to get a job pretty quickly because his visa is about to run out. And so while this is this very whimsical world, this very strange take on the art world, it's also got real world stakes and like present day stakes that I think a lot of folks will relate to no matter what country they might be from. He takes a job with Tilda Swinton, who is just this larger than life. I don't want to call her crazy because there's an inherent sexism in that word, but she is very, don't you think when you call a woman crazy, she's crazy. It's so dismissive. She is so much more than what that word might even suggest. She is so demanding. She is. I would assume that she is the titular Problemista, but perhaps the Problemista is in the eye of the beholder. She is an art critic, and she is obsessed with maintaining the legacy of her boyfriend, who is an artist. I don't want to say a whole lot, but she's maintaining his legacy and his work, and he needs a job, so he goes to work for her. And it's about what day in and day out is like working for a really demanding employer. I think no matter what you've ever done in your life, you've had a job like this where someone has really capricious whims and no concern at all for your time. And just what it's like to not have any money and like scrape by. This is consistently clever and inspired over and over again. Again, it is a real world situation, but it's got this almost Michel Gondry-ish kind of weird whimsy about it and its take on modern life. So I dug it.
Yeah, I think she's the problem and he's the problemista in that he handles her and tries to.
I see.
This movie is full of surprises. I think that if you are somebody who, if the word whimsy sends you running for the hills, then maybe this is not the movie for you. But if you like Michel Gondry, if you like Wes Anderson, if you like filmmakers that have a very kind of singular vision, then I think you will appreciate what Torres is doing here. But as you say, his sort of visual style is also married to these very real world concerns about immigrants and the kind of hoops they have to jump through for legal recognition and dealing with all the sort of bureaucracy involved in immigration. I think that the Swinton character is a lot, but at the same time, the movie ultimately has a sense of compassion for her and where she comes from. And weirdly enough, and I think one of the coolest gambits here is that she kind of teaches the Torres character, you don't maybe necessarily want to be exactly like her, but you could pick up some things from her and how she gets through the world and gets what she wants and what she needs from people and apply that to yourself if you are somebody who is maybe an introvert or is, lacks a certain level of self-confidence. Like, I think he does wind up getting things from her, even though I think in a lesser movie they would have just made her this kind of like sort of horrible art world Karen or whatever. Yeah, I like the wit. I've been a fan of Torres's other stuff, and so it was exciting to see him kind of apply this to a feature film. And I think for a first feature, there's a real confidence here in the way that he's telling this story in the world that he is building for this character. And so I'm really excited to see what he does next. And I think that he has, this is an out of the gate winner for him.
Yeah, the way the Tilda Swinton character evolves is fascinating and very unexpected, because she does seem just horrible. I mean, she's routinely cruel and demeaning to service people, which like that alone is one of the worst characteristics anybody can ever have. She talks down to waiters. She screams, she makes demands, she gaslights everybody all the time. And so like that alone would in theory make her a pretty despicable figure right off the top, and an irredeemable one. And the way that she evolves but still maintains some of those very core personality traits at the same time is pretty fascinating. The way he depicts visually things that exist in our world that we take for granted, like Craigslist, or like the whole immigration system, like the way that he portrays that is totally inspired and makes you feel his frustration. A lot of this, I understand, is inspired by his own, battles to live in the United States and how difficult that is for so many people, and just sort of like the Byzantine workings of this system, which is not there to really welcome your tired and your poor, really. But it's funny. I make it sound like it's, this awfully heavy-handed metaphor about immigration. It's not. It's really, really funny. And it's light. And a lot of it has to do with his demeanor and just his way with a tossed off line, because she'll go on this rant about miserable stuff and she's screaming at the Apple support person on her phone, and he'll look at her and go, "Oh no." And, it's like, and there's like genuine sympathy in it, but also like, what have I gotten myself into?
Well, yeah, and I think the immigration stuff is also there to be like, why would you work for this person? Well, sometimes you just don't have a choice. Like, you have to take the gig because you need the gig, and if the gig is this, then this is the gig. I'm not going to give away too much about it, but I will say this is one of the rare movies where at the very end I was almost moved to tears and at the same time giggling. And that's a really tough balance to pull off. And that's the kind of movie this is in terms of what it presents. I think there's something also very specific about Torres's. I mean, we take millennial, right? I mean, that's the generation here,
I guess. How old is he? I don't know, like 30?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think there's a generation of like people who are in their like late 20s to early 40s dealing with older bosses who do not understand technology, and having to like try and walk them through it. Like, I'm too old to be that guy in the office. Like, the best I could ever pull off was being in a job where most of the people there were older than me, and they were just astonished at how quickly I could use Google. Like, they'd ask a question, I'd be like, click, 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 and tell them, be like, oh my God, how did you get that so fast? But yeah.
What is this sorcery?
Exactly. So I think we're definitely seeing there's a generational thing, and one day Torres will reach and his generation will reach the age where there's some new thing that they don't understand, that the recent college graduate will be like, duh, it's blah blah blah, So the cycle continues. But anyway, yeah, this is a really charming movie. It is visually daring. I like it a lot, and I think it really sort of heralds Torres as somebody who's going to be a really interesting writer director.
Oh, I mentioned the score really fast because it is really inspired and weird. And I love the costume design. Everything that Tilda Swinton wears gets like increasingly garish. And that's a manifestation of her character. And then little things like there's a shot where they take a tram to Roosevelt Island, and you see like the shadow of the tram on the street, on the East River, on all different things, like a car. It's a cool look at the world. It's a very inspired look at New York City. So what you number them?
I will say like an 8.5. I think. I mean, there are a few kind of little rough around the edges moments, but for the most part, I just found this really delightful. The score, by the way, by Robert Uyang-Rusli.
Cool. I'm gonna say 8. There's a bit of a muchness to it, but it's specific muchness, and I admire that. So Problemista is out there for streaming. Go check it out.